Going from skinny fat to lean and muscular is not quite as simple or as easy as most people make out. Most people will claim that you just need to eat less and move more. In terms of an energy balance perspective and losing scale weight, sure, that will work for most people, especially if you're significantly overweight. But eventually over time that will stop working, your body's going to hit a metabolic adaptation, and to be honest, that's going to get very boring, very mundane, and it's very easy to fall off and get distracted the second someone invites you out for a meal or a drink or you have a holiday, birthday, etc. Which is why most men tend to get stuck in that skinny fat physique, because they're trying to lose body fat, trying to gain muscle and get lean, but their strategy is either too bland, too boring, or too short-sighted. Now my client Reese that you saw in the thumbnail there, he kind of fits into that typical skinny fat physique. He had a belly that he wanted to lose, he had love handles that he wasn't happy with, and of course the famous moobs that made it look like he, didn't have a masculine chest. And his arms obviously weren't up to standard for what he wanted, and it kind of was affecting his confidence, it affected his dating life, and it kind of kept him down in his career because he just didn't have any self-confidence or self-belief, which is where a lot of men find themselves, especially as they get older. Now Reese was quite smart, he actually did hire a personal trainer to try and get some help. He has made the effort to try and fix this issue. The issue with that is most personal trainers, and I am one, I've got my qualifications, I already know exactly what they're going to do in those gyms. They're going to take you through the basics, a little bit of cardio, maybe some form and posture assessment, and then they're going to take you for any workout plan they can actually fit in the gym at that time, because the gym might be busy, there's limited equipment, and they've got multiple sessions to run through. So it's going to be still kind of vague. And the personal trainer that he worked with basically just got him to do cardio circuits by doing box jumps, star jumps, all the basic stuff. And he did this for like 3 to 4 months, lost a little bit of weight on the scale, but physically and visually, not a lot was changing, as you can see by the photo. And he kind of got a bit frustrated. There wasn't much diet or nutrition support, which meant that he was just trying to eat less constantly and avoid all his favorite foods. But every time the weekend came around, he'd fall off, he might have a drink. And he was just getting fed up of not knowing what to do, how to do it, how long, when to adjust, and the fact that he was putting all this effort in and paying for it, but not seeing any results, which would frustrate anyone and make anyone lose motivation and probably drop off. Now, because Reese had this skinny fat physique and there was stubborn body fat to lose, but he also had muscle to gain, he was kind of questioning whether he should do a bulk, whether he should carry on with a cut, how much cardio he should do, and he kind of just felt overwhelmed because there's a lot of conflicting information out there, and obviously his trainer wasn't necessarily helping him, which is pretty frustrating, right? Now, at the time, I used to also work in the gym, and Reese saw me training some of my clients. He saw that I had some good transformations, which I'll probably put up on the screen, some of my transformations back in the day. So he was like, okay, well, this is kind of what I want to achieve. I'm stuck in that category of skinny fat. How do I lose body fat and gain muscle? So we reached out, we had a little chat. Now around this time, this is when lockdown kicked in, so we actually weren't able to train in the gym, but Reese still reached out for some help and wanted some help with his nutrition, training strategy, and what he should be doing to finally fix this physique. So instead of wasting time and faffing about, we just got straight to work. And what we did was we wanted to start off with a recomposition. Now, if you watched any of my other videos, I always talk about recompositions because they're not quite the same as a cut, and they're certainly not a bulk, but they kind of achieve somewhere in between, and they're very applicable to a skinny fat physique. And fun fact, actually, Reese's transformation that you see here, this was done in 12 months, but this was entirely a recomposition, meaning there was no bulking phase, there was no lean gain phase, there was no switch of strategy. It was just very simply a recomposition that we adjusted over time. Now, like I said at the start, Reese's struggles were that he had a lack of motivation, there was a lack of consistency, his self-belief wasn't particularly high because he tried and failed so many different things, and he just was lacking that clarity on what to do next. So by working with me, what we did was we mapped out a training program that fit his schedule, his needs, but mainly to target him towards building a lean physique. Not just doing star jumps, sit-ups, cardio, running, and going on any gym machine that's available when the gym's open. We wanted to focus on a strategic strategy for helping him getting stronger and bigger. So we focused on just doing a 3-day training split, pull push legs, focusing on strength movements, started off with a bit of body weight, and then once the gyms were open, we were able to get him back on the machines and do some free weight movements. And there's nothing special or magical about this training system, right? A lot of people overcomplicate the training side of things. I've worked with several clients where they come to me saying, hey, here's my 7-day training program, here's the A and B version, C version every 3 weeks, then I change this and I do this mesocycle. And it's just kind of spreading themselves too thin and doing too much in one go, and ultimately just getting nowhere. Whereas what we did with Reese is we focused on just keeping it simple. We did pull push legs, we had the main compound movements to overload with, and then a few accessory movements to build up his conditioning and obviously develop a bit more muscle. And then we track this in an app. You can use a notepad, anything, any way of tracking it is fine. There's no magic to using an app, which meant that every session he did, he knew exactly what weight to do or what reps to do next time to try and beat his previous best. And then if something started to plateau or stick, I would review it every single week and make adjustments. So it was very straightforward in terms of training strategy. And this just means that he was able to get stronger a lot faster. Every session was purposeful instead of just guessing or going through the motions. And that also meant that he was a little bit more excited to do each workout because there was actually a goal and purpose and something to progress with, which also helped him get fitter and stronger, so he was feeling better as well, physically and mentally. Then we paired this with a slight calorie deficit. Instead of just dropping the calories down, 1200 calories like most coaches tend to do, sure, it looks good because the scale weight plummets, but a lot of that's going to be glycogen, water weight, fat and muscle loss. With Reece, we wanted to just simply lose the body fat. We weren't too worried about what the scale says. We just want to see a downward trend and make sure it correlates with his food. So he would track his calories, which gave him the flexibility and freedom to be able to eat relatively what he wants, as long as he was fitting it within those nutritional targets. And if he was off by a little bit, we were able to see what he was having so we could make adjustments so that the week wasn't wasted. This also meant that if it came to the weekends and he was invited out for a meal, he could still make it work within his calorie target. And again, if he goes over a little bit here and there, we can always chuck in some cardio to shave it off, or just roll with it and see how he gets on. It just means that the diet was more sustainable, a lot more flexible, and less restrictive, which means it's easier to stick to for a longer period of time, in this case obviously 12 months, so you can actually achieve the result. Now, I've had clients that have come to me from previous coaches that have been thrown right down at 1200 calories. They do it for like 8 weeks and they get ill, they feel like crap, and they just cannot keep up with it, and they stop, and by that time they end up putting all the calories and weight back in. So it kind of destroys their confidence and their self-belief in achieving this result, which is why a lot of people think that they can't stick to most fitness programs, because most people can't stick to most fitness programs. That's why it's important to be specific to your body type. So with Reece, we would track his food and review it each week and make sure that we adjusted it as and when needed and allowed a lot of room for flexibility. So that way, even if the week wasn't perfect, he was still seeing some form of progress, be it in the photos, scale weight, or performance. And then we did a weekly progress photo each week so that we can actually see that progress come through. So I'll probably put them on the screen here. We've got a few of them from each week, and then obviously we did them throughout the months. And as you can see, it's a little bit slow to start with because all transformations are slow. Yes, I've got clients like Ross, Matt and Matthew who managed to transform within about 12 to 14 weeks, but obviously they started off a little bit better off than Reece did, and Reece had a lot more longer to go. But as you can see, 3 months in, some decent changes, 6 months, and then obviously all the way down to the full year, he was able to lose all the body fat and actually gain muscle by following the simple strategy of eating a slight calorie deficit, being flexible and tracking his numbers so we know it's guaranteed, and then of course pairing that with getting stronger over time in the gym. And then once something started to plateau or hit a wall or a certain muscle group was lagging slightly, we would then just tweak his training program to reflect that so it was custom to him. This is personally why I only do one-on-one coaching, because in my experience, it took me about 7 or 8 years to figure out where I was going wrong, because everything I was following was cookie cutter or just surface level, or it worked for someone else, but it might not work for me. I was very, very, very skinny at the start. It doesn't look like it, but I still had a lot of stubborn body fat around my arms, chest and lower back. And it seemed like no matter what advice I took or what plan I followed, I kind of just looked the same, which I'll show again here, embarrassingly. But as soon as I started tracking my calories, adjusting them specifically for me, getting my macronutrient ratios right, and then training, which is really important, specifically for my build, my biomechanics. I got quite narrow shoulders and long arms, got long bicep insertions, my chest is crap. So I had to train really specifically around that to fix it and obviously build a physique that I'm happy with now. So the bottom line here is you must train specifically for yourself. Keep it simple and make sure it's something you can actually stick to. I've had people ask me for coaching and they go, I want the best program ever. I want like Dwayne The Rock Johnson's kind of level. I want it to be extreme. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I'll spend ages building this perfect plan for them and they barely stick to one day. So you've got to meet yourself where you're at and slowly build from there. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent, because consistency will beat perfection every time. Now, if you are skinny fat and you're watching this video, like I said in the title, you want to do this first. Start with a recomposition. If you're losing body fat and getting stronger in the gym, you're likely to still gain muscle, especially if you're still quite skinny. If you pair this with a slight calorie deficit, somewhere between 300 and 500 below your maintenance, with high protein, somewhere between 1 gram per pound of goal target lean weight, you are much more likely to succeed at achieving a lean muscular physique compared to if you just do loads of kettlebell swings, starving yourself and hoping for the best. Sometimes it's not just a plan or a strategy to follow, sometimes it's just a navigation, because a lot of it is mental. There's distractions, there's low mood, low motivation, the self-doubt that creeps in, and there's a massive lack of accountability when it comes to trying to get in shape. And obviously Reece was able to get the knowledge from me, but also get clarity, accountability, and the support, which is one of the reasons he was able to stay on track every week, despite all the social events, Christmas, birthday, all these things that pop up that could distract you, because we had a weekly touch point and he had my communication throughout the week, as well as a place to track everything clearly in one space for me to review each week, a lot more clarity and a lot more accountability to get it done. Plus, he was able to see his progress every single week because we would review it every single week. Now, if that sounds like something you would benefit from, or you're just kind of stuck and not sure what to do, or you just want some help getting it done as quick as possible before time runs out and you get too old to even achieve your physique, because The reality is the older we get, the harder it gets. You can book a call with me down below and I can see if I can help you out. I hope you found this video as helpful as possible. And if you want a little bit more in-depth idea of how to fix skinny fat, you can watch this video over here. And I hope you have a great day. It's empty. I don't know why I'm cheersing it. It's literally, it's all gone.